Our freedoms are important. We're a democratic nation where we're supposed to be equal. We're all supposed to be equal. Our society is predicated on the idea that we are all citizens and should therefore have the very same rights and privileges. But it really doesn't work that way. Money talks, and stories abound of how people like Kerry Stokes and Danny Minogue were able to skirt the rules and quarantine in their own homes. There's even a recent story about a guy who was given permission to go and collect his new yacht. And whilst I'm angry at these stories and find the disparity utterly repugnant, it's not this that upsets me the most. Money has ruled the world for a long time. Changing the power dynamic means fighting the inertia of rampant capitalism and the insipid addiction we have to the pursuit of wealth. What upsets me a great deal more is those who choose to exercise their freedoms to the disadvantage of everyone else. Now, at a fundamental level, no one should have the ability to be able to tell us to wear a mask or socially distance. No one should be confined to their home 23 hours a day. We should all be able to traverse our state borders at will, and we should certainly be able to leave the country if we want to. But as grown-ups, we have to acknowledge that we have a responsibility to everybody else that we share this world with. We pay taxes together to build infrastructure for all of us. We pay car registration together to fund roads that we can all access. And we have both an implied and an explicitly defined role to play in the community that we're part of. Look at the US. There's a country that puts the individual and individual freedoms first. And as a result, there are millions without access to healthcare, there are millions below the poverty line, there's massive problems with gun crime because people have a constitutional right to own guns. Their shockingly callous disregard for human life is totally at odds with how so many think about abortion. And it's this misplaced sense of freedom that has resulted in the US having the worst COVID-19 death toll globally. It seems many Americans care about freedom, but only their own individual freedom, not the freedom of the person standing next to them. We should all have the freedom to not be assaulted, abused, starved, or forced to sleep outside. We should all have the freedom to get a decent education and to have the opportunity to use our labour to provide value. We should all have the freedom to not get infected involuntarily by someone who has no respect for the boundaries of others. Our right to throw our fist ends where someone else's nose begins. Our right to not wear a mask ends where that behaviour may infect someone else. Our right to go out or travel should by consensus end where it causes irreparable damage to other members of our society. If individual people are not going to respect the unwritten social contract of having some sense of responsibility for the health and well-being of others, then unfortunately, they must be compelled. We are not an individualistic society. Anarchy doesn't work. Libertarianism is at first glance a noble ambition, but it's not the reality of the world that we share. We are here together. We are stuck on this one planet. We have limited resources and limited space. Without cooperation, we cannot move forward. War, external and internal, cannot be avoided if everyone works to their own advantage rather than the greater good. The most valuable thing in the world is not money. Money is a tool. The most valuable thing is people. We must protect each other, respect each other, and try to improve things for everyone. It doesn't have to be a competition. We physically create value by enabling people, educating people, and keeping people healthy. Looking after society benefits all of us. Freedom can be looked at from another perspective. It's not just about your right to do as you please. Freedom is the ability for all of us to be able to make responsible choices that don't adversely affect others. It's why we have laws, to protect everyone from each other. We take freedoms away from those who harm others. That's why quarantine and lockdowns are absolutely not a threat to freedom. In fact, quarantine and lockdowns are a tool to give us back our freedom. The virus and the people who care more about their ability to go to the footy or take part in a demonstration are showing the cracks in the world that we've constructed. We see the inequities, the corruption, the scandalous disregard for the less fortunate, and we all know we can do better. Some can't be bothered until it affects them directly, but there's many of us out here who argue loudly for change, and now is the opportune time. Change is inevitable, but let's make it happen before too many more people die as a result of irresponsible behaviour. Capitalism is good. Capitalism without bounds, a logical extension of so-called freedom, both bad and causing an ever-widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. Our economy must transform to become about people and happiness, not money and greed. Whether you believe in a God or you believe in yourself, a happy, healthy, equal society will always result in more freedom, more mobility, and a greater happiness for all.